Good day to all of you. I hope you revised Act 1 to 4 of She Stoops to Conquer. Today we are going to do Act 5. That is the final act. It was a custom or a practice among Greek and Roman tragedians to write 5 acts. And so, generally, a good playwright tries to stretch his play into 5 acts, and normally Act 5 is the last act. So here we've reached the last act, and we'll see what's going to happen today. Now, we had seen that Miss Neville and Mr. Hastings' plan to elope was spoiled by the fact that Hastings' letter was read by Mrs. Hardcastle, and she ordered her son Tony to take Miss Neville, and she would take Miss Neville and Tony would accompany them and she would go. So in Act 5 we find Hastings and his servant on the stage. Hastings is very sad. You saw the old lady and Miss Neville drive off, you say? Yes, Your Honour. They went off in a post coach and the young squires went on horseback. They are 30 miles off by this time. So the servant gives him very sad news that they've gone very far. Then all my hopes are over. Yes, sir. Old Sir Charles has arrived. He and the old gentleman of the house have been laughing at Mr. Marlowe's mistake this half hour. They are coming this way. What is the mistake? Remember, Mr. Marlowe thought that the daughter of the house was a barmaid and he had been flirting with her, and they both have just discovered it and they are having a good laugh. Then, I must not be seen. So now to my fruitless appointment at the bottom of the garden. This is about the time. So before leaving, in the last words of Act 4 were that Tony told Hastings, don't worry, in 2 hours you come to the bottom of the garden and then you see if I'm not your best friend. So he said, that's the only thing I have left to do. So I better go now. And he goes. Then we have Sir Charles, Marlowe's father, and Mr. Hardcastle on the stage. Ha ha, said Mr. Hardcastle. The peremptory tone in which he sent forth his sublime commands. So now that Mr. Hardcastle has got to know that Marlowe thought this was an inn, now he's looking at the story in that context. So he's a man with a good heart, generous heart, a good sense of humor. He can take a joke. He is no longer offended. After all, it's his best friend's son. So he says, that is why he was ordering me. Peremptory is, very urgent and insistent. And the reserve with which I suppose he treated all your advances. The father is saying, and that is why he didn't, be very welcome. Yet he might have seen something in me above a common innkeeper too. Yes, Dick, but he mistook you for an uncommon innkeeper. Ha ha ha. Well, I'm in too good spirits to think of anything but joy, said Mr. Hardcastle. Yes, my dear friend, this union of our families will make our personal friendships hereditary. And though my daughter's fortune is but small, why, Dick? Now, see, even in England, in India we have heard about daughters' dowries. Even in England, Mr. Hardcastle is apologizing and my daughter doesn't have a lot of money in her name. And at once Mr. Marlowe, a nice decent man, says, why, Dick, will you talk of fortune to me? My son is possessed of more than a competence already and can want nothing but a good and virtuous girl to share his happiness and increase it. That is what a good wife is supposed to do, and that is why we are not supposed to be paying any dowry when we go somewhere. So, Mr. Marlowe, senior, has a very noble declaration to make. He says, my son has enough money. He only needs a good wife to increase his happiness. If they like each other, as you say they do. If, man, I tell you they do like each other. My daughter as good as told me so. Sir Charles is a bit realistic. You don't know what his son is a very scholarly young man. He's very shy in public. So he says, girls are apt to flatter themselves. They imagine appreciation. Well, I saw him grasp her hand in the warmest manner myself. And here he comes to put you out of your ifs, I warrant you. So, now Marlowe comes on the stage. So we have three people there. Mr. Hardcastle and his friend Sir Charles and Sir Charles' son. I come, sir, once more to ask pardon for my strange conduct. I can scarce reflect on my insolence without confusion. Marlowe is very embarrassed. He's a scholarly man, well travelled. His father is so proud of him. And here, what a big fool he was. Of course, there were no photographs in those days. So, he didn't know what his friend looked like. And he didn't make any inquiries. He trusted Tony and came that this is Buck's Head Inn. So, Marlowe says, I'm really ashamed. My pride, my boldness just embarrasses me. That boy a trifle. You take it too gravely. An hour or two's laughing with my daughter will set all to rights again. She'll never like you the worse for it. And not only is Hardcastle, willing to forgive him, he says, I'm sure my daughter will also laugh at this mistake. Sir, I shall always be proud of her approbation. Now, approbation is approval. It's a formal word. It's not used for a young boy and girl in love with each other. Approbation is but a cold word, Mr. Marlowe. If I am not deceived, you have something more than approbation thereabouts. You take me, you understand? He says, hey, you are using this formal word. I'm sure you and my daughter have a warmer relationship. Really, sir? I have not that happiness. So he hardly looked at Miss Hardcastle in the face, and he never spoke to her officially a second time. From the next time onwards, he thought she's the barmaid. So she says, no, I don't know anything more than that. Come, boy, I'm an old fellow, and know what's as well as you that are younger. I know what has passed between you, but, Mum, I won't say anything. Sure, sir, nothing has passed between us but the most profound respect on my side and the most distant reserve on hers. You don't think, sir, that my impudence has been passed upon all the rest of the family? So the first meeting was really cold. She says, I was very respectful and she was very reserved. And I have not been as bold as I have been with you, with everyone. Impudence. No, I don't say that, said Mr. Hardcastle. Not quite impudence, though girls like to be played with and rumpled a bit too sometimes. But she has told no tales, I assure. Says maybe, though he's a father, he's saying maybe girls like to be held closely or tightly or whatever. So I won't say anything. May I die, sir, if I ever. I tell you, she don't dislike you. And as I'm sure you like her. Dear sir, I protest, sir. I see no reason why you should not be joined as fast as the parson can tie you. But hear me, sir. Your father approves the match. I admire it. Every moment's delay will be doing mischief. So, but why won't you hear me? By all that's just and true, I never gave Miss Hardcastle the slightest mark of my attachment, or even the most distant hint to suspect me of affection. We had but one interview, and that was formal, modest, and uninteresting. Now that is what he remembers. He spoke to her, and there she had a bonnet, and he didn't look at her face. Mr. Hardcastle is quite, you've seen him holding his daughter's hands there when he thought she's the barmaid. This fellow's formal, modest impudence is beyond bearing. And you never grasped her hand or made any protestations, the father is asking. As heaven is my witness, I came down in obedience to your commands. I saw the lady without emotion, and parted without reluctance. I hope you'll exact no further proofs of my duty, nor prevent me from leaving a house in which I suffer so many mortifications. He's very embarrassed, no? Grown up adult man, young man, and the father singing that he's held that girl's hand. He has no memories of that. The Mr. Hardcastle is saying, no, you were very warm in dealing with my daughter. So his father obeyed you. But there was no emotion, there was no regret, and I'm going, I don't want to stay here anymore. I'm so embarrassed. And the son went away. I'm astonished at the air of sincerity with which he parted. And I'm astonished at the deliberate intrepidity. Now, intrepid is bold and courageous. It is often used for a general. But because he's been using the word impudence all the time, so he's put a better word now. He says intrepidity. Means he's so bold and shameless. I've seen him. I dare pledge my life and honor upon his truth. Here comes my daughter, said Hardcastle. I would stake my happiness upon her veracity. So Marlowe's father trusts him. He says, my son is very honest and very truthful. I must believe him. The girl's father says, my daughter is very truthful. I'll believe her. Okay. Enter Miss Hardcastle. So Marlowe's gone. Miss Hardcastle's coming. Kate, come hither, child. Answer sincerely and without reserve. Has Mr. Marlowe made you any professions of love and affection? The question is very abrupt, sir. Imagine the father asking the daughter, huh? But since you require unreserved sincerity, I think he has. Since you want the truth, so I'll tell you. You see, Hardcastle tells Sir Charles, and pray, madam, have you and my son had more than one interview? Yes, sir. Several. You see. But did he profess any attachment? A lasting one. Did he talk of love? Much, sir. Amazing. And all this formally? Formally. Now, my friend, I hope you are satisfied. So, Mr. Marlowe has been questioning Kate, and Kate has been answering that yes, he's formally talked about love and we've met many times. So, now what to do? And how did he behave, madam? As most professed admirers do, said some civil things of my face, talked much of his want of merit and the greatness of mine, mentioned his heart, gave a short tragedy speech, and ended with pretended rapture. So the girl, puts all those love requirements. He was admiring my beauty, and he was very sad. He had a tragedy speech, and he said he loved me. Now, I am perfectly convinced. Indeed, I know his conversation among women to be modest and submissive. This forward, canting, ranting manner by no means describes him. And I am confident he never sat for the picture. So Charles has always seen, and Marlowe has confessed right from the beginning, that seeing a modest, decent lady well dressed just makes him nervous and tongue-tied. So Charles, the father says, the way you're talking about him making professions of love and talking about your cute, pretty face, that's not my son. He never sat for the picture. Earlier paintings, if you had to, there were no photographs, and so a man had to sit down to be painted. So he says he didn't sit for this picture. He was not there. Then what, sir? If I should convince you to your face of my sincerity, if you and my papa in about half an hour will place yourselves behind that screen, you shall hear him declare his passion to me in person. So the girl, from the beginning, from the time she's heard that he might go away, or he doesn't like to talk to smart, well-bred females, so she has been planning something. So he says, okay, I'll talk to him. You just sit behind the screen that nobody may see you. Agreed. And if I find what you describe, All my happiness in him must have an end. Now, Sir Charles, he knows his son at home. He knows his son to be respectable. He doesn't know what his son does at inns and hostels and college. So he's a bit ashamed if his son behaves so badly. So he says, if my son, publicly declares that he loves you, I won't be happy anymore with him. And if you don't find him what I describe, I fear my happiness must never have a beginning. Now, if he's not bold enough to say that he loves me, chapter story doesn't begin. So both of them make these contradictory statements. And now the scene changes from the stage in the house where they are all sitting, maybe in the parlor, in the drawing room. Now we go back to the back of the garden where Tony had called Hastings. What an idiot am I to wait for a fellow who probably takes delight in mortifying me. He never intended to be punctual, and I'll wait no longer. After making this speech, he's quite sure that definitely Tony has run away with Constance. He sees someone coming. What do I see? It is he! And perhaps with news of my Constance. Enter Tony, booted and spattered. The spattered is all covered with mud. They must have gone on a long ride. My honest squire, Hastings says, I now find you a man of your word. This looks like friendship. I am your friend, says Tony, and the best friend in the world if you knew but all. This riding by night by the by is cursedly tiresome. It has shook me worse than the basket of a stagecoach. So maybe the stagecoach, if you look at a picture, it will have some, lower kind of shelf, which is called the basket. So it says, just as, if you're at the back of a bus or at the bottom of a car or something, how you'll be shaken up. He says, it's shaken me up. It's a bad thing to travel at night. But how? Where did you leave your fellow travelers? Are they in safety? Are they housed? 25 miles in 2 hours and a half is no such bad driving. The poor beasts have smoke for it. Rabbit me. I'd rather ride 40 miles after a fox than 10 with such varmint. He called his mother and a cousin of his stupid, evil people. He says, I'd rather go hunting 40 miles after a fox than, run around 25 miles we have been driving. But well, where have you left the ladies? I die with impatience. Left them? Why, where should I leave them but where I found them? This is a riddle. Riddle is a puzzle. Riddle me this then. What goes round the house and never touches the house? So he tries to ask him a puzzle, but Hastings, it's the end of the day, all his plans have gone awry and disturbed. He is in no mood to think and understand. He says, I can't understand. Why, that's it, Mon. I've led them astray. By Jingo, there's not a pond or a slough within 5 miles of the place, but they can tell the taste. So I've taken them round and round and round this area, and every pond I've taken the coach in and out of all the ponds and holes of water, and they know them all. Ha ha ha, says Hastings. I understand. You took them in a round while they supposed themselves going forward, and so you have at last brought them home again. He gets it. You shall hear. I first took them down Featherbed Lane, where we stuck fast in the mud. I then rattled them crack over the stones up and down hill. I then introduced them to the gibbet on Heavy Tree Heath, and from that, with a circumbendibus, I fairly lodged them in the horse pond at the bottom of the garden. He said I took them on a roundabout way, and there they are near the horse pond. But no accident, I hope. No, mother's only confoundedly frightened. She thinks herself 40 miles off. She's sick of the journey. The cattle can scarce crawl. Now here, nowadays, we only call cows and buffaloes cattle. But here, it was the horses He's calling cattle. They're tired. So if your own horses be ready, you may whip off with your cousin, and I'll be bound that no soul here can budge a foot to follow. Budge is move. He says, okay, if your horses are ready, you just take my cousin and go. And everyone is so tired that no one will move and follow. My dear friend, says Hastings, how can I be grateful? Aye, now it's dear friend, noble squire. Just now it was all idiot and cub and run me through the guts. Damn your way of fighting. I say, after we take a knock in this part of the country, we kiss and be friends. But if you had run me through the guts, then I should be dead and you might go and kiss the hangman. Says, okay, now you're calling me friend. Till now you were abusing me and getting angry with me and you wanted to gut me, take out my intestines. In our country, when we get upset, then we have a few harsh words, but then we go and kiss each other and become friends again. But if you had done what you wanted to, I'll be dead, and you would have been hanged. So you would have had to kiss the hangman. The rebuke is just, but I must hasten to relieve Miss Neville. If you keep the old lady employed, I promise to take care of the young. So that is how Tony and Hastings divide their work. He says, you take care of your mother and I'll take care of Miss Neville. Never fear. Here she comes, vanish. She's got from the pond and draggled up to the waist like a mermaid. When my mother's coming, she's all wet, like a half with the tail of her clothes. So you better run away. Now this is a long scene, and so you can take a break, but I would like to continue. And so we go forward with this. Mrs. Hardcastle enters, they are all wet and muddy. Oh Tony, I'm killed, shook, battered to death. I shall never survive it. The last jolt that laid us against that quick-set hedge has done my business. She's an old lady. The son had said, no, my mother has only one sound tooth in the head. So an old lady, 57 plus, maybe older, whatever. In earlier days, people got older faster. Wait, my son, I'm exhausted. I'm just done. I can't move a bit. Alack, Mama, it was all your own fault. You would be for running away by night without knowing 1 inch of the way. So he is not very comforting. He is a bit brutal. He says, Mommy, you were the one who was responsible. You didn't know the way to Aunt Pettibree's and you wanted to go at night. I wish we were at home again. I've never met so many accidents in so short a journey. Drenched in the mud, overturned in a ditch, stuck fast in a slough, jolted to a jelly, and at last to lose our way. Whereabouts do you think we are, Tony? Says, Beta, my son, I've never had so many accidents in a journey. Oh my, what a difficult time it has been, covered with mud, overturned in a ditch. Ditch is a big nala. By my guess, we should have come upon Cracked Skull Common about 40 miles from home. Oh, Lord, Lord, the most notorious spot in all the country. We only wanted robbery to make a complete night on it. Now, Cracked Skull, maybe highwaymen, short places, people over there. So he says, Mummy, we have reached Cracked Skull Common, which is 40 miles away from home. Oh, beta, now this is what is going to happen. Someone will shoot us or steal something from us. He's very worried. Don't be afraid, Mama. Don't be afraid. 2 of the 5 that kept here are hanged, and the other 3 will not find us. Don't be afraid. Is that a man that's galloping behind us? No, it's only a tree. Don't be afraid. So he tries to give his mother some cold comfort. He says, Mother, there used to be 5 highwaymen frequenting this area, and 2 have been hanged, and the other 3 may not find us. And they say, see, is that someone coming? Oh, it's only a tree. Mommy, don't be afraid. So, He's not so pleased with his mother for making them have that terrible journey. So he's just trying to punish her in an indirect way. The fright will certainly kill me. Do you see anything like a black hat moving behind the thicket? Again he frightens her, or maybe that's true because Mr. Hardcastle is coming. He says, can you see that black hat moving in the bush? Oh death! Oh no, it's only a cow. Don't be afraid, Mama. Don't be afraid. So again, the next time he talks about a hat, imagine a hat and a cow's head. They're not the same. So he says, Mama, don't be afraid. As I'm alive, Tony, I see a man coming towards us. I'm sure in it. If he perceives us, we are undone. So she actually sees a man coming towards them, and she says, Beta, son, there's a man moving towards us, and if he sees us, perceive is see, then we'll be in trouble. And when Tony sees the man, he recognizes him to be Mr. Hardcastle, father-in-law. By all that's unlucky, come to take one of his night walks. And he tells his mother to hide. Oh, it's a highwayman with pistols as long as my arm, a damned ill-looking fellow. Good heavens, defend us. He approaches. And Tony says, do you hide yourself in that thicket and leave me to manage him. If there's any danger, I'll cough and cry, okay? When I cough, be sure to keep close. So he thinks that he'll keep his mother out of the scene and talk to his Mr. Hardcastle himself. So, mother, you hide. And they were talking, mother and son. So when Mr. Hardcastle comes, he says, I'm mistaken. Oh, I heard voices of people in want of help. Oh, Tony, is that you? I did not expect you so soon back. Are your mother and her charge in safety? Very safe, sir. At my Aunt Pedigree's. And then he had said, if I cough, you come. So Mrs. Hardcastle thinks, as a cough, oh death, I find there's danger. 40 miles in 3 hours? Sure, that's too much, my youngster. Stout horses and willing minds make short journeys, as they say. And Mrs. Hardcastle is seeing that they are talking. Sure, he'll do the boy no harm. But I heard a voice here. I should be glad to know from whence it came. It was I, sir, Tony says, talking to myself. I was saying 40 miles in 4 hours was very good going. As to be sure it was. I've got a sort of cold by being out in there. We'll go in if you please. But if you talk to yourself, said Mr. Hardcastle, you did not answer yourself. I am certain I heard 2 voices, and I am resolved to find the other. So he starts looking. He says, I'm sure there were 2 people here. And Mrs. Hardcastle is still under that, notion that this man is a highwayman. Oh, he's coming to find me. What need you go, sir, if I tell you? I'll lay down my life for the truth. I'll tell you also. And he tries to hold him. I tell you I will not be detained. I insist on seeing. It's vain to expect I'll believe you. So when he holds him, oh, Mrs. Hardcastle is so nervous. Oh, Lord, he'll murder my poor boy, my darling. You good gentleman, whet your rage upon me. Take my money, my life, but spare that young gentleman. Spare my child if you have any mercy. And she's not even looking at whom she's speaking to. She's closing her eyes and so nervous. And she's so nervous. My wife? As I'm a Christian? From whence can she come? Oh, what does she mean? And though he recognizes her, Mrs. Hardcastle's eyes are still closed and she's begging. Take compassion on us, good Mr. Highwayman. Take our money, our watches, all we have. Spare our lives. We will never bring you to justice. Indeed, we won't, good Mr. Highwayman. I believe the woman is out of her senses. What, Dorothy? Don't you know me? She opens eyes. Mr. Hardcastle, as I'm alive, my fears blinded me. But who, my dear, could have expected to meet you here in this frightful place so far from home? What has brought you to follow us? She is still under the influence of her son. He said, Mommy, we are 40 miles from home. She's wondering why her husband came. Sure, Dorothy, you have not lost your wits so far from home when you are within 40 yards of your own door. This is one of your old tricks, you graceless rogue. Don't you know the gate and the mulberry tree? And don't you remember the horse pond, my dear? Mrs. Hardcastle. Yes, I shall remember the horse pond as long as I live. I've caught my death in it. And it is to you, you graceless varlet, I owe all this. I'll teach you to abuse your mother, I will. Tony is undisturbed by all this. Oh, mother, all the parish says you have spoiled me, and so you may take the fruits on it. I'll spoil you, I will. And she goes on. There's morality, however, in his reply. Mr. Hardcastle always had a bad word for Tony, but now he agrees with him. If she spoiled him, she has to bear the fruits of it. So Mr. Hardcastle also goes, and Mrs. Hardcastle goes, and of course Tony is also gone. Now, Hastings had gone to check on Miss Neville in the coach. My dear Constance, why will you deliberate this? If we delay a moment, all is lost forever. Pluck up a little resolution, and we shall soon be out of the reach of her malignity. Now, Constance was a young girl. See, running away from the house is never easy. Not now, not 400 years ago. So, Constance is feeling a bit guilty. Always she'll have a bad name. Don't know what her husband's family will think. So, she's like now in two minds about running away. And Hastings is persuading her that if you agree, then in a short while, we'll be free. I find it impossible. My spirits are so sunk with the agitations I have suffered that I am unable to face any new danger. Now, Tony had given them a rough ride, jolting them, pushing them. They were falling. The coach was turning over. She said, I don't have any strength to take a new journey. 2 or 3 years patience will at last crown us with happiness. However long it takes, even if it takes 2-3 years. But finally, with everyone's permission, I'll marry. Such a tedious delay is worse than inconstancy. So he says, if someone is unfaithful, you feel bad, but waiting and waiting and waiting is too much. Let us fly, my dear charmer. Let us date our happiness from this very moment. Perish fortune. Love and content will increase what we possess beyond a monarch's reveling. Says, I don't want your jewels. If we are happy and content, then more than a king's jewels, we will have joy. Let me pray. No, Mr. Hastings, no. Prudence once more comes to my relief, and I will obey its dictates. Now, prudence is a virtue of acting wisely, cautiously, carefully, not being careless or just rushing into some folly. In the moment of passion, fortune may be despised, but it ever produces a lasting repentance. So if we hurry and are passionate and try to seek our happiness, and when we regret it, then we have to repent. I am resolved to apply to Mr. Hardcastle's compassion and justice for redress. I'll ask Mr. Hardcastle for help. He will solve our problem. But though he had the will, he has not the power to relieve you, but he has influence, and upon that I am resolved to rely. I have no hopes, but since you persist, I must reluctantly obey. So Neville says, no, though he may not have power, he has influence, his wife might listen to him, I am going to trust him. So Hastings has nothing to do but to agree with her. And so again these two leave the stage, and we come to the almost the last part of the play. Sir Charles and Miss Hardcastle are there. They're talking. What a situation am I in? If what you say appears, I shall find a guilty son. If what he says be true, I shall then lose one that of all others I most wished for a daughter. So, he's in two minds. Either the son is good or he's not good. If the son is good, then the girl will not be his daughter. If the son is not good, how can he allow that to happen? He says, I love you and I'd like to have a daughter. I'm feeling very worried about that. I'm proud of your approbation. Now that's a formal word. Yes, you like me, approve of me, I'm so happy. And to show I merit it, if you place yourselves as I directed, you shall hear his explicit declaration. But he comes. I'll do father and keep him to the appointment. Then Manu comes. Though prepared for setting out, I come once more to take leave, nor did I, till this moment, know the pain I feel in the separation. So Manu is going, he wants to say bye to this pretty barmaid girl, he liked her. So he says, we may not meet again. I just want to take permission to go. And I did not know that I would be leaving you with so much sorrow. I believe sufferings cannot be very great, sir, which you can so easily remove. You're not sincere. You've come, you've spoken to me a few times sweetly, and now you're going away. A day or two longer perhaps might lessen your uneasiness by showing the little value of what you now think proper to regret. Just now you try to, speak sweetly to me and apologize for going away, but in a few days you'll forget about it, and then all your pain and discomfort will vanish. Wow, what a dialogue. This girl every moment improves upon me. It must not be, madam. I've already trifled too long with my heart. My very pride begins to submit to my passion. The disparity of education and fortune, the anger of a parent, and the contempt of my equals begin to lose their weight, and nothing can restore me to myself but this painful effort of resolution. So officially she's a barmaid, that's what he thinks, she's a maid in the house. So he's trying to remind her that though we are separated by education, by fortune, my father won't be very happy at this match, even my equals will look down upon me, yet all those weighty reasons seem to lose their force, and I have to just count and depend on a strong resolution. Sometimes the lovely serial, a lovely program, a lovely party, a lovely wonderful entertainment, and we have exams. What do? We have to close our eyes, shut the window, shut the door, put our phone away and study. So like that he says that I'm just trying to resolve this matter. Then goes, I'll urge nothing more to detain you. Though my family be as good as hers, you came down to visit, and my education I hope not inferior. What are these advantages without equal affluence? So she says, I'm of the same family as her. I'm a poor, she had said, I'm a poor relative. So I have the same education, I have the same nobility. But what is all this without money, without wealth? I must remain contented with the slight approbation of imputed merit. You thought I was pretty? I have to be happy with that. I must only have the mockery of your addresses, while all your serious aims are fixed on fortune. So what I lack besides Miss Hardcastle is only that I don't have money. But you might pretend to like me and say sweet words to me, but you are looking for money. Here behind the screen, I make no noise. I'll engage my Kate covers him with confusion at last. So they have just come. By heavens, madam, fortune was ever my smallest consideration. Your beauty at first caught my eye. For who could see that without emotion? But every moment that I converse with you steals in some new grace, heightens the picture, and gives it stronger expression. He says, no, why talk about money? That touches him to the quick. He's also not money minded. He says, no, I just, you were so pretty, and who could not see your face without falling in love? And every minute that I spend with you, I learn something new. What at first seemed rustic plainness now appears refined simplicity. I just thought you were a village girl, but actually a very learned, stylish, sophisticated. What seemed forward assurance now strikes me as the result of courageous innocence and conscious virtue. She has, been very polite, spoken very well. Imagine if a young man meets us for the first time, will we be able to have these wonderful speeches ready? So she said, it looked like you were just bold and shameless, but now you're innocent and you're willing to speak the truth and you're virtuous. What can it mean? He amazes me. Father's quite surprised. I told you how it would be. I am now determined to stay, madam, and I have too good an opinion of my father's discernment when he sees you to doubt his approbation. So he says, okay, I'm not going. I will stay, and my father is a good man. If he sees you, he won't not like you. No, Mr. Marlon, I will not, cannot detain you. Do you think I could suffer a connection in which there is the smallest room for repentance? Now, when he's coming closer, she's trying to push further back to make a stronger commitment. So she says, no. If I'm poor, you'll be embarrassed. So I don't want you to be embarrassed or regret it. Do you think I would take the mean advantage of a transient passion to load you with confusion? Today you are seeing me and you are in love with me, but I won't take advantage of this short-term love and embarrass you. Do you think I could ever relish that happiness which was acquired by lessening yours? If you have to be embarrassed by society and by your family, how could I be happy if your happiness was reduced? Well, that's good. I can have no happiness but what's in your power to grant me, nor shall I ever feel repentance but in not having seen your merits before. I will stay even contrary to your wishes, and though you should persist to shun me, I will make my respectful assiduities atone for the levity of my past conduct. So now, Malo is brought to the brink of a stronger commitment and stronger declaration. No. The only happiness I want is what you can give me. And I never feel guilty or regret anything except that I didn't appreciate your virtues in the first place. And even if you avoid me, my whole soul, aim of my life will be to keep on persuading you to forgive my shameless behavior. He had said, can I kiss you? Maybe I'll get to know you're looking younger and younger. Since you're looking 40 at a distance, you're looking younger as you come closer, And then he had held her hand warmly. So I must entreat you'll desist. As our acquaintance began, so let it end in indifference. I might have given an hour or two to levity, but seriously, Mr. Marlowe, do you think I could ever submit to a connection where I must appear mercenary and you imprudent? Do you think I could ever catch at the confident addresses of a secure admirer? So again she begs him, no, you must not talk about loving me. Desist, stop. When we met each other for the first time, you ignored me. Let us continue to ignore each other. Maybe we laughed for an hour or so. But I don't want to marry you and let people think that I was money-minded, mercenary, and you were foolish, unwise. Can I, be, made a fool of by the fact that you have sweet words for me? I can hold it no longer. So he kneels down. Does this look like security? Does this look like confidence? No, madam. Every moment that shows me your merit only serves to increase my diffidence and confusion. So he puts one knee down and he begs her, am I looking confident? No, am I looking boastful? Please, I'm really in a mess if you don't say yes. So as the parents, fathers see him kneeling, they come in. I can hold it no longer. Charles, Charles, how hast thou deceived me? Is this your indifference? Your uninteresting conversation? And the father-in-law says, your cold contempt, your formal interview, what have you to say now? They jump on him that you were saying I didn't see her, I didn't talk to her, I didn't like her, I hardly looked at her. Then I'm all amazement. What can it mean? Now he is very surprised from where did his father come. It means that you can say and unsay things at pleasure. That you can address a lady in private and deny it in public. That you have one story for us and another for my daughter. He says, yes, you are two-faced. You were telling us something and telling her something, and you behaved with my daughter in one way and with us in one way. Daughter? This lady your daughter? Yes, sir. My only daughter, my Kate. Who else should she be? Oh, the devil, it's so embarrassed, my God. Yes, sir. The very tall, identical, squinting lady you were pleased to take me for. She that addressed you in the mild, modest, sentimental man of gravity and the bold, forward, agreeable rattle of the ladies' club. Ha ha! Yes, I was the one who was shy and reserved, and I was the one who was bold. Zounds! There's no bearing this. It's worse than death. I'm very embarrassed. My God. In which of your characters, sir, will you give us leave to address you? As the faltering gentleman with looks on the ground, that speaks just to be heard and hates hypocrisy, or the loud, confident creature that keeps it up with Mrs. Mantrap and old Miss Biddy Buckskin till 3 in the morning? Ha ha ha. So she says, you want to talk to us like the bold man at the inn or at a bar, or you want to be the shy man in a drawing room? Oh, curse on my noisy head. I never attempted to be impudent yet that I was not taken down. I must be gone. He says, no, people always take advantage of me and expose me. I better run away by the hand of my body, but you shall not. I see it was all a mistake, and I am rejoiced to find it. You shall not, sir, I tell you. I know she'll forgive you. Won't you forgive him, Kate? We'll forgive you. Take courage, man. So he says, my daughter won't mind it, that you have two faces, and for us it's okay, so don't run away. Then Mrs. Hardcastle and Tony come in. So they're gone off. Let them. I care not. Oh, boy. My dutiful niece and a gentleman, Mr. Hastings from town. He who came down with a modest visitor here. Who? My honest George Hastings? As worthy a fellow as lives, and the girl could not have made a more prudent choice. Then by the hand of my body, I am proud of the connection. Well, if he has taken away the lady, he has not taken her fortune. That remains in this family to console us for her loss. So Mrs. Hardcastle says, very good, he's gone, but he hasn't taken her money and jewels. Sure, Dorothy, you would not be so mercenary. Aye, that's my affair, not yours. She's happy with her gold at least. But if you know your son, when of age, refuses to marry his cousin, her whole fortune is then at her own disposal. Now, this is a point to tick. So, Mr. Hardcastle gives a technical point. He says, if your son does not marry you, then of course she can keep her money. Aye, but he is not of age and she has not thought proper to wait for his refusal. And just at that time, Hastings will never enter. What return too soon? I begin not to like it. Then Hastings apologizes. For my late attempt to fly off with your niece, let my present confusion be my punishment. We are now back to appeal from your justice to your humanity. By her father's consent, I first paid her my addresses, and our passions were first founded on duty. So Hastings, makes a very formal, he says, with the father's permission, I wanted to marry her, and so I spoke to her, and we loved each other out of a duty to our parents. Since his death, I have been obliged to stoop to dissimulation to avoid oppression. In an hour of levity, I was ready to give up my fortune to secure my choice, but I am now recovered from the delusion and hope from your tenderness what is denied me from a nearer connection. So she also approaches Mr. Hardcastle. She says, I hope you will be kind. My aunt, who is closer related to me, is not so interested in being kind, but I hope you will be kind. Sure, sure. This is all but the whining end of a modern novel, says Mrs. Hardcastle. Be it what it will, I am glad they've come back to reclaim their due. Come hither, Tony, my boy. Do you refuse this lady's hand, whom I now offer you? So he wants to clarify. It says, Tony, you don't want to marry her? What signifies my refusing? And you know I can't refuse her till I am of age, father. While I thought of concealing your age, boy, was likely to conduce to your improvement, I concurred with your mother's desire to keep it secret, but since I find she turns it to a wrong use, I must now declare you have been aged these 3 months. So when he tells Tony, you can refuse, do you refuse to marry her? He says, I have to be of age. Till that time my comments are of no use. So he says, no, but beta, your mother was keen that you might get better, so I agreed with her. But you have been of age for these 3 months. 3 months? Am I of age? Then you'll see the first use I'll make of my liberty. Then he takes Miss Neville's hand. Witness all men by these presents that I, Anthony Lumpkin, Esquire of Blank Place, refuse you, Constantia Neville, spinster, of no place at all, for my true and lawful wife. So Constance Neville may marry whom she pleases, and Tony Lumpkin is his own man again. So Tony declares that, see, I will never marry her, I don't want to marry her, and she is free to marry anybody. Oh, brave squire, my worthy friend, my undutiful offspring, or the stupid son. Joy, my dear George, I give you joy sincerely, and could I prevail upon my little tyrant here to be less arbitrary, I should be the happiest man alive if you would return me the favor. So Marlowe is happy for his friend. He says, my girl, she's a tyrant, she's not willing to change her mind, but if she agrees, and I'll also be as happy as you. And Hastings tells Miss Hardcastle, come madam, you are now driven to the very last scene of all your contrivances. I know you like him, I am sure he loves you, and you must and shall have. So he just is like the go-between. He says you like him, that is why you've been pursuing him as a barmaid. So he loves you, so may both of you have each other. And Hardcastle joins the hands, the last speech in the play. And I say so too. And Mr. Marlowe, if she makes as good a wife as she has been a daughter, I don't believe you will ever repent of your bargain. So now to supper. Tomorrow we shall gather all the poor of the parish about us, and the mistakes of the night shall be crowned with a merry morning. So boy, take her, and as you've been mistaken in the mistress, my wish is that you may never be mistaken in the wife. The father, whose great hope it was that his daughter should marry his friend's best friend's son, is really happy. He says, you may have made a mistake in the girl, but may you never make a mistake in the wife. And so the play comes to a happy ending. No one finds a wife for Tony, but Tony likes one village girl, so they're not getting, but at least he's free to marry. Neville and Constance are permitted to marry, and Miss Hardcastle and Marlowe are engaged to be married. And so the play comes to a happy ending, and she stooped to conquer, she bent low to be a maid, to win this man's attention and affection, and she has succeeded. So it was a lot of fun. I'm hoping to have another class with you to, analyze the play, to get some critical approval of it. All the best. See you next time.